But my beats, they are hard.
BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan Fulford here and AD Drew. As always, we are joining you here. AD, how you doing, my man?
Doing all right, my brother. Doing all right, man. Just after a tough month, a long month of a lot of interesting and breaking news, just trying to get through now as we get ready for the to officially start the 2021 season, which starts on July 1st, officially, college season.
Yeah, we're in the last days of June, and for many athletic programs, this is the last couple days of the calendar year. The new year officially starts July 1, and just think, in 365 days from Wednesday, you'll have a brand new Southwestern Athletic Conference featuring 12 members. So I think when people start doing the little countdowns in a couple days, that's sort of one of the things we'll be talking about. But we definitely have had a lot of things to talk about over the past 6 months. I mean, it has been between the pandemic, how it affected sports, the social awakenness, the social unrest that has happened in this country. It's been a lot for these past 6 months. I don't think we've had a 6 months like this in my lifetime. How about yours?
Not that I could remember the only thing that made parallel to this, and this was before you and I was born, if you talk about 1968, with everything that went on in 1968 with the death of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy, the Olympic protests, Tommie Smith and Carlos. And then the black athletes boycotting everything in 1968, refusing to participate for the United States. That may be the only thing that I can think of. But once again, you said in my lifetime? No, because that was before my lifetime began. That's before I was even thought about that, my brother. But that's really the only year that I can look at in history and kind of compare to 2020.
Yeah, that's interesting. You've given me a something that I may look at when I get into the school year, trying to create some kind of lesson plans. We talk about students and leadership. One of the classes that I teach in high school, that'll be a nice compare and contrast of having students take a look at 1968 and 2020, some 52 years later, where our country is at. And so it's interesting things, and of course, the sports world has really been shaken and turned on its axis. Of course, we've had a lot of news that sort of trickles down on the HBCU level, because we understand that when it comes to college athletics, there really is the haves and the lesser haves. And so, the Power Fives have the haves, and things that seem to be happening and moving towards sports returning for professional organizations as well as Power Five college programs may not necessarily apply to HBCUs. And I think a lot of those answers will get fleshed out over the next month, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Something else and this is a minor thing, and a lot of people probably already had this one thing in their athletic budget, but something about, if you remember college basketball, men's college basketball, 2020, the 2021 season, the 3-point line moves. If you remember, that rule was passed a couple of years ago.
Okay.
You know, on the Division I level, we saw it last year, but on the Division II, Division III, junior college, and NAIA level, the 3-point line moves back to the international 3-point line this year. And, you know, thinking of all these things that have to come out of athletic budgets with the increase in COVID testing and all the sanitation requirements and the not knowing how many students and everything else that you're going to have to deal with on the college campus. You know, you've also got to get your court repainted this year.
Yeah.
So I know that, and having been a part of that process and looking at it, that's not a $500 project, as they say, because you got to completely sand the court down, paint the new lines, in addition to the normal refinishing that you do when you finish your basketball courts every year. You got an extra step that you have to do, and players are going to have to get used to practicing and shooting from the new 3-point line, which means the game is going to slightly change, and you haven't had the summer to work out with it. It's going to be interesting come college basketball, next year with the 22-foot 3-point line versus the 20 feet 9 that it's at currently right now on the men's side.
Yeah, so let's set up this episode of this show, because you were able to do some great conversations here with a couple of sports information directors, Travis Jerome from Alabama State and our good friend Joshua Jackson from Edward Waters College. And so that'll be coming up here in the show, in which you had a conversation with both of those two gentlemen. And then before we get into a couple of news matters that have come up over the weekend, I want to first thank everyone who had a chance to watch our coverage on Thursday and Friday of last week as Bethune-Cookman moved into the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Of course, on Thursday, we had our live reaction show to that news, in which not only did we speak to SWAC Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan, we also had Michael Coker from Black College Nines, who joined myself, you, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill from inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Roy Evans did a great job of hosting those 2 days. We don't always get a chance to work with Roy in this platform.
In front of the camera.
In front of the camera, right. Roy does a lot of our behind the camera production work. So he jumped out in front and drove the ship, so to speak, on those 2 days. So we're very appreciative to him. But all of you who watched, we thank you for tuning in and watching on Facebook Live. And of course, it was streaming on Instagram and not Instagram, but Periscope and Twitter. And of course, to find all of us, or really to join us on any of those platforms, all you have to do is go to @MyBCSN1, the number 1. You can see it right there behind AD, @MyBCSN1. And of course, the BCSN SportsWrap, we've got a Facebook page as well, and inside the HBCU Sports Lab Facebook page as well. So we were everywhere, and it was great to be in the moment. And then, of course, on the next day, we had a conversation with the athletic director of Bethune-Cookman, Lynn Thompson, who joined us. And that was a great roundtable, I thought, as we all got a chance to kind of learn more about what went into the process of Bethune-Cookman joining the SWAC. So a lot of great feedback. And of course, again, just thank you guys for your comments and interacting with us, being a part of that. And we'll be putting more, previews and teasers out there for anyone who missed it on Instagram and even on our YouTube page. I know we will get those uploaded to YouTube as well. And if you happen to be watching any of our shows on YouTube, make sure to go to My JBN Online. That's where our YouTube channel is. Make sure to like, subscribe on all of our platforms, so that way you make sure to stay yeah, make sure you stay aware anytime we go live and things of that nature. So two of the stories, AD, that one of the stories that came out on Friday that really, I think, kind of got lost in the shuffle. I hate to call it a news dump because I consider it a big story, and it might be the big story that goes into this week and into July, was Morehouse College making the decision on Friday morning, or at least the announcement. I'm sure they made that decision previously in the days prior to the announcement, that they were suspending their fall sports. They were suspending football and cross country. And it just it puts a lot of questions out there. And I was in the middle of trying to work on a blog post to kind of really analyze those questions. But what are some of your immediate thoughts and questions that come out of that announcement that happened on Friday?
As a football fan, as an HBCU football fan, I am saddened that it happened. And to my knowledge, they are the first HBCU to officially cancel fall sports. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think not only are they the first HBCU, but I think they may be the first school to suspend. And I'm not talking, there have been a couple schools who've canceled programs, but they may be the first to actually suspend their season, not cancel the program, suspend the season due to COVID. There are a couple of D2 schools who I think canceled their program.
Florida Tech is the one that comes to mind. No, they're
Urbana.
In Urbana.
But
yes.
In terms of the first school on any NCAA division level to suspend their season due to COVID, I think Morehouse is the first.
Yeah. And you may be right on that. Of course, we'll fact check that as we go on about our next show. Hopefully we have a definitive answer on that, because somebody may have gone up under the radar with that. But yeah, I hate that it has happened. I hate that it has come down to that. As an administrator, I cannot get mad at them for erring on the side of caution. As a fan, I wish they would have let it go a little bit longer before they made that decision. But they're in Atlanta, which is a hot spot for COVID-19 cases. That's number one. Number two, over the past 14 days, the state of Georgia has jumped only 116%. And I say only 116% because there are some states where the number of COVID cases have jumped 300 to 400% over the last 14 days. So comparatively speaking,
I'm in one of those states.
Comparatively speaking, Georgia is not as bad as some, but it's still trending the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. So you wish they would have, hopefully let it go a little bit further, but maybe legal and a few other people got in and said the safest thing, the best thing for us to do is to cut this off. Now, what are the benefits of them cutting it off right now at the end of June? From a competitive point of view for the remainder of the SIAC conference, it gives those who have the ability to play or choose to play an opportunity to go and try to fill in that hole on their schedule. As a Tuskegee alum, I hate that the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic would not be played for the first time, which is, to my knowledge, is the longest consecutive running classic around right now.
But that classic was probably in jeopardy anyway, wouldn't you imagine?
Well, the classic was moved from Columbus, Georgia, to Birmingham. This is supposed to be the first year of a contract where the classic was being played in Birmingham, which you go from the classic being an hour away for the two schools to about a 2-hour travel for the two schools, but you're in a much bigger market in Birmingham. The classic was scheduled to be at Legion Field for the first time. The classic itself, the classic has not always been in Columbus. It's been the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic, and there's been some home and home in that classic. It's just been in Columbus for the last 40 some odd years. Don't quote me on that. I don't have it in front of me. But ever since I can remember, that classic has been held in Columbus, Georgia. But irregardless of whether it's the the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic or whatever it's called, the game has been played for over 90 years. This will be the first time in those 90 years that the game has not been played. And I know you remember when the Orange Blossom Classic was the longest running classic when we were in school and when that was first canceled. And the Orange Blossom Classic has never come back in its full state. The one good thing about this one, this is a conference game, so hopefully this game will come back. But currently, Tuskegee and Morehouse on two different sides of the conference. So there's no guarantee that this game will come back, even though you try to protect those rivalries within the conference schedule. But there's no 100% guarantee that the game will come back. But I think it's too big of a moneymaker for the two schools if this game does not come back. But that gives an opportunity for Tuskegee and any other school that Morehouse, the SIAC East, to go and try to fill in somebody on the schedule. That from an athlete's point of view. Now, this gives me the opportunity, and I think you brought it up, we didn't really get time to get into it. What's the value of my Morehouse education? If I'm one of those athletes who thinks they have an opportunity to get a look at another level, this decision was made early enough where even though I may have to go as a preferred walk-on status to another school, I still have the opportunity to consider going to another school that may be playing football this fall. That's number two. And number three, will I, as an athlete at Morehouse whose cross country and or football season was suspended, will I ultimately get that year back as what happened with the spring sports, where they were given that opportunity to get it back, provided the schools wanted them back?
Yeah, no, great points that you brought up there. Many of those, a couple of those I was definitely looking at mentioning in my blog post. I had not thought of the impact of that Tuskegee Morehouse Classic and the consecutive game streak that will come to an end. I initially.
What about the Battle of Atlanta when Clark and Morehouse play each other? That's another big one for them.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of just the conference as a whole. I think because of the news, we had not seen a statement from the SIEC yet. So that's something that we'll be looking for over the course of the next couple of days, is to see their statement and kind of learn how they'll make adjustments. But I wonder, and I haven't heard anybody say this, so I may be the first to say this and slap me on the wrist if I'm stepping out of bounds here. But given some of the recent positive news that Morehouse received, in that the Netflix CEO was making a sizable donation of almost $40 million to the school, along with it's well known that Morehouse has one of the largest endowments. Are the optics and the timing? It is curious to see how they measure and match against the COVID-19 concerns. You know, it's like I can't argue against you wanting to protect your students and you're having COVID-19 concerns. I just cannot argue against that. But I just have to wonder about the timing, given that nobody else has sort of jumped out there first. You know, no other school. No, you know, and they haven't even gotten to the point of having you haven't heard any statements about students coming back for workouts. And maybe that was part of this. They wanted to get in front of that. Maybe they wanted to give students an opportunity to decide, you know, you made a commitment to Morehouse. You know, we want you to finish your degree as a Morehouse graduate. But let's be real. There are some guys, I'm sure, that if given an opportunity to transfer to another HBCU where they potentially may be playing this year, and that's a big if, because
or PWI, just a school that would take them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there are unknowns. I mean, there are no guarantees that if you put your name in that transfer portal and you go to another school, and then what's the worst case that could happen? That all of a sudden, come late July, that school has to cancel, or in August, that school ends up having to cancel their games, and then now you transferred away from Morehouse. I mean, that's got to be some of the painstaking decisions and thoughts. At least if I had a son that played football, or I can't speak to cross country, but even if I had a student athlete that was highly successful in cross country or football, I would be measuring those two things. The educational value versus what if we do decide to put your name in the transfer portal. No coach can sit there and give a guarantee to a kid and say, yeah, we're definitely going to play. All you're able to give somebody is the high percentages or percentages as on July or June at the end of the month. But we've talked about it, AD. Today was definitely not like 2 weeks ago, and it definitely was not like 1 month ago. So who's to say 2 weeks from now, 1 month from now, things won't get worse? We don't know. So
couple things that you just brought out that I want to touch on about this Morehouse thing. You mentioned the donation and the endowment that Morehouse has, and the donation from the Netflix CEO. Maybe that donation from the Netflix CEO made it as an easier decision for Morehouse to make, because now they are not going to be dependent on that money from the football season and the money that football revenue that football generates, because they have this cushion. They have this money coming in now. They're not dependent on football to pay these bills. So because I'm not dependent on football to pay these bills, for lack of better words, it's almost like this unemployment check. I've got this unemployment check coming in right now. I don't have to necessarily go out and find another job and put myself in jeopardy. Maybe that's what Morehouse is thinking was, since they've got this other money, where other universities may not be in that position because they don't have the endowment that a Morehouse has, or have the sponsorship and or donations that are coming in. And they, in order to survive, they're going to have to go out and play. That's point number one. Point number two, and I might be in the minority of saying this, excuse me, SIAC, for saying this, the SIAC may be happy for one reason. Because of Morehouse, the SIAC has always had an unbalanced schedule because of the extra team on one side of the conference in Morehouse versus the other side of the conference. And we've seen that in the schedule, whereas the SIAC West plays 2 games against the SIAC East, but only one game counts against the SIAC East for the SIAC East team, but both games count for the SIAC West. And it's always been a question about legitimacy. I really don't have to win this second game over here because I've already won by a crossover game. But this West team, they have to win it because it counts towards their conference standing. By eliminating Morehouse off of the schedule, now you can make every game count both ways. SIAC schedule, East schedule is the same as the SIAC West schedule as far as number of games, number of crossover games, and those games that count towards your division record. So a problem for the SIAC that's always been there may have just been solved for 1 year basis in football and cross country.
Well said. Well, we'll definitely stay on, keep our ears to the ground, and even try to work to see if maybe we can get some conversations or interviews with some folks from over at Morehouse, possibly even the SIAC, as we'll be looking for statements from the conference. One other note before we get into your conversations with Travis and Joshua. Over the weekend, and I guess this also came out on Friday, I believe it was announced, the state of Mississippi made the decision to finally remove the Confederate flag symbol out of their state flag. Now, I will admit, AD, I don't really pay attention to state flags. I had, I recall the fuss about South Carolina a few years ago. I had no clue that Mississippi was still raising their state flag with the Confederate symbol. And of course, we understand over the past month, there more people are coming around to the removal of Confederate symbols and statues, you know, from government buildings and in government locations and cities around the country. You know, it'll just, that's another discussion as to why we're celebrating, you know, the domestic, as someone said, we're celebrating domestic terrorists at a time that caused civil unrest in the Union, you know, and they lost. Thank God they lost, right?
They lost. So we're giving the loser a championship parade and giving them a ring for coming in second place.
Right.
In essence, that's what we're doing. Using the sports analogy,
Yeah.
putting their banner up and all this stuff. While we may finish in second place. Hold on, let me get this out. While you may finish in second place, and locally people may do something for you on a local level, nationally. Can you remember who finished in second in any sport? If I was to throw out a random year in 1978 in football? No. Can you remember who finished in 1987 in basketball? You would remember who finished in 1987 in basketball because your Indiana Hoosiers won. But you understand? Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm saying. But you understand where I'm going at though with this. Outside the locals who were involved in the contest, nobody remembers who finished in second, and really, nobody cares. You're just the runner-up. You were there. Well, you are a participant.
We'll always remember the Atlanta Falcons losing and coming up second to the New England Patriots, up 20-3. We'll never forget that. But yeah, like you said, I don't know about championship rings, but it's like we gave them some compensatory draft picks for finishing in second. But anyway, so the state of Mississippi, with everything going on in the country, the NCAA came out and made some statements that they weren't going to be hosting or making sure that no championship games would be hosted in the state of Mississippi. You even brought up the strong point that possibly applied to championship games, such as the SWAC championship game, which had been hosted by Alcorn State, which is located in Lorman, Mississippi, the last 2 years. And so we even saw some college football players. In fact, the number one running back in college football who attends Mississippi State had come out and made a statement that he said he wasn't going to return or play at Mississippi State in the fall if the flag was still up. Now, I don't know how much he, or maybe it was just the climate in general, but needless to say, the state made the decision, the smart decision, in my opinion, to remove the symbol.
And there were 23 people who voted on this weekend, and I don't remember whether that was the House in the state of Mississippi, to actually keep it.
Yeah.
Find out who those 23 people were.
That's all. Definitely, that will be used against them when it comes election time. So trust me.
And speaking of Mississippi, we just got to do one other thing, Bryan, when it comes to sports in the state of Mississippi. Now that we looks like we're getting rid of the flag, let's stop calling it at University of Ole Miss. I'll leave it right there.
Okay.
I'll leave
it there. That's another discussion. I'll love to hear your thoughts on that off air. Okay, let's as we've gone through sort of this pre-show setup, let's get into your conversations, AD. Coming up after this break, your first conversation with Travis Jerome, the sports information director at Alabama State, and then you'll hear the conversation with Joshua Jackson of Edward Waters College. So we look forward to those conversations. Make sure to tell somebody about our show, spread the good word with a few people. Make sure to like and subscribe, not only on YouTube, but Facebook as well. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. You can find AD at BCSN Drew, and you can find me at DRB365. So coming up after the break, you're going to hear from Travis Jerome and then Joshua Jackson. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap on the Black College Sports Network.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammie Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
It was a monumental game for A&M and Tampa. It was a monumental game. Somebody had to lose, and thank God it was them this time.
We knew it was going to be a battle. Look at Jake Avis' record. 202 and 36, I think, some off-the-wall figures.
And nobody would play him because they didn't want to take a chance of getting beat. But the truth of it is,
over 46,000 tickets. Blacks were sitting in the east stands. Whites were sitting in the west stands. And the score wound up 34-28.
The only thing we proved that we wasn't inferior, that we were not inferior, and we were not afraid.
For one night, for 160 minutes, we was better than them.
Hello, and welcome to another BCSN conversation. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Alabama State University's Sports Information Director, Travis Jerome. First of all, Travis, how are you doing today? How's the family? How's everybody doing in this COVID-19 world we're in?
I think it's the sad thing is I think we've grown accustomed to being together all day, every day. So things are good. Getting to make up for lost time with all the traveling that's happened over the last 17, 18 years, and spent the last 90 some odd days at home every day with my 11-year-old. So things are good, as good as they possibly could be. I'll put it that way.
You haven't got any cabin fever or anything, have you?
I did a few weeks ago. But now as things are better. So. Gotcha,
man. And you are the Sports Information Director for Alabama State University, also known as the SID. I know what the SID is. Obviously, you know what the SID is, but the common man does not know what an SID is. So, for the common man, can you explain what the SID does, what the Sports Information Department does, and how important your role is within the scope of the university and athletic program?
Well, to start, when I first started in this thing, and I'm about to date myself, in the early 2000s, you kept people. It was really just keeping stats by hand and filling stat forms out and sending stuff out. There was no internet. There was no social media. You didn't have all the access to all the technology you have now. So then it was, you keep everything by hand. You keep it on one stat sheet, then you have to tabulate, all your little stick figures that you made, and say this guy was 8 for 16 from the floor, or this guy rushed 23 times for 100 yards. And then you put it on a sheet of paper and fax it in to about 50 media outlets. So, and then things started to develop when the internet came, and then, websites started coming around. Then you start doing other things, and fast forward to 2020. It's a lot of different things. A lot of people still think it's just keeping stats at games, at football, basketball, baseball, softball, whatever sports you have. It's more than that. We're the front porch. Athletics is considered to be the front porch of any university almost. And then we're the front porch of the athletic department, because we have to get that information out, whether it be phone calls, whether it be emails, whether it be face-to-face visits. So anything you see that comes out athletically related usually comes either off my desk or my assistant's desk or goes through me from somebody else. So, we're the people that put all the information out. We're the people that get to know these student athletes, try to tell these student athlete stories, these coaches' stories, the university stories. And you hear a lot of people say it a lot of times, but you get a lot of thank yous and everything else. But at the end of the day, it's probably a thankless job in athletics because it's just you work every day, all day, and you have to find that medium. And that medium just happened to be the pandemic, which taught me how to slow things down and really focus in on some things that we needed to do. But anything you see now, social media wise, that comes from the sports information departments, especially at schools our size. Anytime you see something go out on a television station, that's us communicating with that television station or getting that television station to tell our story. Anytime you see something in the newspaper, that's us telling the newspaper what we have, that we can use as far as story wise. And things have been ramped up over the last 90 days, obviously, with people looking for content and with us bringing in a new head coach. So things have, you can get to a point where people finally understand, I think, what really goes on. But, those that think, it's a job that I would tell anybody if you're interested in going and watching sports and writing about them and doing all the little things that go with it, you'll find out real quick what all it entails.
Yeah, probably outside the athletes, the student athletes, and the coaches themselves, you're probably the next most important person in that hierarchy, especially the way you have to disseminate all the information out to various media outlets. And one thing people don't realize is, student athletes who get drafted or get drafted from your school or sign free agent contracts, a lot of the information starts with you, because if you don't get the stats out to the scouts, then the scouts don't know about ABC player, or if you're not posting the scores to the newspaper, to the TV station, or the highlights to the TV station, they don't know about some of the players that you may have and know to put them on their radar.
Well, and two, it's evolved from just stats now. It's, you have to have up-to-date, biographical information on these kids. You have to be able to answer questions. If they ask you a question, you need to know about these kids and not just what they do on the field or in the classroom. You need to know their story, because they may ask you a question about them. And, if you don't know it or you don't have a bio up, that kind of hinders a kid, getting drafted. And I say kid because they really are. They're 18 to 21, some 22-year-olds. But that really hinders the opportunity for them to get looked at. And then you have scouts or front office personnel that call you and ask you about somebody's social media account. So you need to know what they're doing on social. There's a lot that goes into it, but at the end of the day, I've got a great administration in our athletic department, and they give us the opportunities and give us the leeway to do what we need to do. So, if it wasn't for the likes of Jennifer Williams, our athletic director, and Terrence Jones, who at the time, Jennifer was the deputy AD, and Terrence Jones, who's now the deputy AD, was the senior associate for external operations, I wouldn't have the opportunity at Alabama State that I have now. They allow us to do what we do every day. So that gives us the leeway to make changes and do what we need to do in order to tell our student athletes the stories that need to get out to the public.
All right. And the main reason that we have you on here on SportsWrap today, having this conversation with you, is you're an award-winning SID. I believe this is the second time that you've won this particular award. So if you would explain to everybody what the award is that we're talking about, and the organization that gave you the award, and what that really means, not only to you personally, but to your university, because like I say, you got the award, but as we know, anybody who gets an award, there are other people that go into the hard work, and you're just the one out on Front Street who received the award.
Well, the award came from our professional organization, which is COSIDA, which is the sports information directors from across America at all levels, Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, junior college. You know, and the way it happens is publications committee, you submit your work just to kind of see where you stand. And some submit to win awards every year. You know, the way the awards, the way the contests are handled is you submit 3 copies to a facilitator who's an SID, which I'm part of that committee. So, you know, for me, it's sometimes I have an ethical question in my head of, do I want to enter? Do I not want to enter since I'm on that committee? But the thing is, even though you're a facilitator, you don't have any say so. All you do is you basically get the nominations, get the entries, send them out to 3 media members. You tabulate the votes, you send the tabulations in, and then it gets announced that way. So, you know, so 3 years ago, I submitted our baseball notes just to kind of see where we stood, what we needed to change. Because at the time it was, you know, we were fairly early into the Alabama State realm, and just kind of seeing where we stood, because you have different levels. You have university level and a collegiate level, and the collegiate level is basically Division II down, and the university level is all Division I. And they divide game notes up. They divide you know, your media guys are divided up into football or baseball or basketball. Your game notes are divided into fall, winter, spring. So it's all fall sports, all winter sports, all spring sports. So 3 years ago, make a long story short, 3 years ago, you know, I entered our baseball notes into the equation just to see what we needed to improve on, and, you know, found out while we were at the convention that we had gotten the best in the nation in that one. And, you know, I was really surprised, because when you talk about spring, you talk about baseball, you talk about softball, and you don't really know who enters these competitions unless you're on these committees. But, you know, whether it's 5 schools, whether it's 3 schools, whether it's 20 schools, whatever sports they enter, you know, it's always humbling when you see your name at the top of a list. You know, so last year we didn't really enter anything. We entered a couple of things just to see where we stood, got some grades back, made some changes. In our football notes we entered this year, we haven't changed them since I've been here. We came up with a new design when I took over the program, and, you know, in the fall of 17. And we've used that template since then, and just on a whim decided to enter it just to kind of see where I needed to change, what I needed to change, because obviously we play some Power 5 schools and we have a chance to go to a bowl game at the end of the year. So I wanted to make sure we had everything that the media needed in those game notes. And, you know, we do a media guide, but our media guide's only 90 some odd pages. We don't put a lot of graphics in it because, you know, everybody is pretty much doing things different. Excuse me. So we entered, and, you know, and I had completely forgotten about it. I had just sent my my contest tally in, so I didn't even think of anything about it. I actually had forgotten that we even put anything in. And I was on the phone with Andrew Roberts from the Southwestern Athletic Conference, our assistant commissioner, and we were talking through some things. And, you know, you see when Cosada put a tweet out, hey, the publication contest winners have been announced. So I just clicked on them just to see if I knew anybody that had won. And, you know, I'm on the phone.
You knew somebody.
And I was on the phone with him, and I said, Drew, you're not going to believe this. And he goes, what? I said, dude, we just got best in nation for football notes, for our fall notes. And to say, you know, I don't know who entered. I don't know what sports were entered. But realistically, at the end of the day, you know, when you see your name at the top of a list, it's very humbling to know that, you know, that the media would take the time and go through your notes and, you know, vote on your notes. And, you know, and for those that are curious, the grading sheet is really hard. I mean, you have to, they're looking for certain information. And they base the information on a point scale. And so, you know, I haven't got my sheet back yet. I mean, heck, I could have made a 70. I could have made basically a C on my game notes. Out of 400 points, I probably could have gotten 260 points. Who knows? But at the end of the day, to be able to see your name at the top of a list of something you entered is humbling. You know, and Drew, you know, I don't talk about myself anyway. But, you know, a lot of that can be attributed to the people that gave me an opportunity through the ranks, through the years, that have taught me what to do and how to do it, and people now that are in this business every day that I can pick up a phone and I can call. I mean, we're in the capital city of Alabama, which is dead center in the state. I can pick up the phone and call at a Power 5 school. I can call a Shelley Poe or a Kirk Sampson at Auburn. I can call Jessica. I can call, all the folks at Alabama if I needed to ask a question. I can pick up the phone. I can drive 45 minutes down to Troy to go talk to Adam Pendergrass, who's a really, really dear friend of mine that we've known each other since the early 2000s. And our career path is kind of mirrored a little bit of each other. He came into Troy after I left as an assistant director, but and then I still have the folks that aren't in the business anymore that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I need you to look at something for me. Can you look at this and just see? And now, I've got a great assistant that came in January, Jay Sanders, that came in from Mercer. He was at Troy then Mercer now with me. He's been here since January. I mean, it's one of those things that if I say, Jace, I need you to look at this and tell me what you really think. And he gives me his honest opinion, and that's what I want. I don't want somebody to sugarcoat it and say, oh, it looks good, or, oh, you need to do that. I mean, I can get thanked every day. I'd rather be told what I'm doing wrong so I can correct it. And I think that's a lot of what went into those notes is, it was a lot of work. And at the same time, I was doing football by myself. But if I didn't have those student athletes and coaches to be able to tell a story, it'd be nothing but a bunch of numbers on a page. I mean, so I got lucky that I had stories that I could tell in those notes. But end of the day, it's an award. It's a piece of paper that it'll probably be put somewhere on my bookshelf, and I'll probably forget to frame it, like I forgot to frame the 2018 one from baseball. For me, it's not about what I can get out of it. It's about what I can do to make our product better and to make Alabama State better. We have a saying, we don't want to be the best in the SWAC. We want to be the best in the region, and we want to be able to compete with those at other levels. And, for our department, that's what it is. It's not a competition. We just like to be able to have our work compared to those group of 5 schools and those P5 schools, just to say that we can, just to show that we can do it, because we're all human. We all are going to take the time to do the things. We're all going to make mistakes, but at the end of the day, to have your work put up on that same pedestal with those schools that you hear all the time, it's very humbling. And, obviously you saw the stuff that was on Twitter. I mean, I never have said thank you so much in my life, and I meant every word of it. I mean, it's just, it's still, when you think about it today, we're looking at media guys and we're like, all right, now what can we change to make these better?
Gotcha. And it's always great when you receive an award from your peers. That usually means a heck of a lot more, because these are the people who fight in the same grind and same battles that you're fighting, just in a different location all the time. Now you mentioned Troy University, where you've worked at in the past, and you've worked at 4 universities that I know of. You worked at North Georgia in the NAIA. You worked at Troy, which is a FBS school. You worked at Tuskegee, where you and I did some work together, which is the Division II school. Now you're working at Alabama State, which is an FCS school. What I'm going to ask you to do right now, kind of compare and contrast those 4 different schools that you worked at, as far as what it takes to be a SID at those 4 different levels.
Well, the truth be told, I've worked at every level but Division III. AUM was in AI when I first started, which is where I was lucky enough to get my college education, and then went to North Georgia, helped them go Division II. And then, came back home to Troy to get to that D1 level, because that's something you always strive for. When you're young, that's the one thing you're looking at is, as I want to be at the D1 level. And then I got out of it for a while. I became a high school administrator, high school athletic director. But, that itch for college athletics is just something different when you've been in it. And Tuskegee, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity there, got some great friendships out of it. And then Alabama State is home. I mean, I'm from Montgomery, not looking to go anywhere. you get to these situations where you hear people say it all the time, and I've said it at other places. I would have probably said Tuskegee if the Alabama State job wouldn't have opened up, but and that just happened to be on a whim. But to compare at all the levels, I mean, you hear of problems at each school, but every school has their problems, and mostly they're the same problems. People just talk about them different. But as far as my job, what it entails, it's the same at every level. I mean, there's nothing different. There's nothing that goes into it that would be any different. You still do the day-to-day grind. Some schools are just heavier. Some schools are lighter depending on your staff. Some are heavier depending on if you don't have any staff. I mean, it really depends on how much help you have and what you can get done, and what your day entails. You wear different hats at all of them. So, for me to compare, it's apples and oranges, really. It's really just staff sizes. I mean, it's all the same stuff. Nothing is different. You have different resources at each one. You just have to make do with what you got. And, we're not blessed to have everything that a Power 5 school has. But at the end of the day, we all have the same job to do, and that's to make sure we get our student athletes and our coaches in the university out. And that's what we do to the best of our ability. We've been the last 90 days, we're in the same situation everybody else is in. We're working from home, but, so it kind of, it puts everything on an even playing field if that's what people are looking for. But, I can still, like I said, I can pick up the phone and have conversations. We have check-ins all the time. There's some people that I'd never talked to in my life I never thought I would talk to. And, we just have, your phone rings, you answer it and ask you how you're doing, anything I can do to help. So it's an even playing field as far as all that's concerned. I mean, yeah, you look at it in competition, it's different, but in our line of work, it's all the same.
All right. Now, I guess having kind of delved into being in SID and what I do with media right now, time management has got to be very important, a very strong characteristic of somebody in your field. The fall, it seems like it's a little bit easy. You've got your main event on Saturdays with your football game, sprinkling in a few volleyball games and maybe soccer if you have a soccer program at your school. Wintertime is primarily basketball, two days a week, and if you have another sport going on, such as wrestling and swimming, you kind of sprinkle that in. But the springtime, it seems like all hell breaks loose for sports information directors. You could have a baseball, softball game, track meet, and a tennis match all on the same days. And Lord Jesus, if you have women's soccer going on, good luck, because I know I've been contracted out to go help certain schools out when they have multiple events going on at home at the same time. So kind of talk about how you manage your days and from season to season.
Well, if you can see, I got a few gray hair on my chin now. And those that know me, I'm getting up there in age and I still keep my hair cut short like I'm in my 20s, because anytime I see a gray hair come up, I go get it shaved. And a lot of that is just, is the time. There's 2 times a year that SID really, really doesn't look forward to, especially if they're a 1, 2, or 3 person shop, and that's November and that's February. Those are the crossover seasons. November is when fall and winter start to cross over. So you've got football, volleyball, soccer, cross country for us. And then you throw in bowling, men's basketball, women's basketball. And then you get to February and you've got men's and women's basketball, you've got bowling, you got indoor track on both sides that have started. Then you've got baseball, softball, tennis on both sides, golf on both sides.
You got that thing called signing day that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm missing somebody. We've got 18 sports, and we host the regionals for the Alabama High School Athletic Association in February. So I'll just put it this way, and I'll use this as a weekend. And this was a weekend that I caught myself by myself at one point in my career at Alabama State. We host the regional, which is 40 some odd games in a span of 6 days. But during that time, and I'll use the example from not this past year. I'll use an example from 2 years ago. So we're hosting that tournament. We get to a Monday. Well, we've got the ESPN men's game, the national men's game on ESPNU.
I actually remember that day because we were playing down there in the regionals when I was still coaching high school ball on that particular day.
Right. So we've got the regionals going on. We've got ESPN trying to set things up. We've got games at 6 and 8. Well, that whole week we had a softball tournament that we hosted 18 games in 3 days. It rained all 3 days. We had home baseball going 3 days, 3 games. We've got men's basketball at home on Saturday, Monday. We've got women's basketball at home on Saturday, Monday. And then you've got indoor track getting ready for the conference championship. You got bowling. You know, they're away at a tournament, but at the same time, you've got to get them all covered. And that was opening weekend for tennis, who just happened to be playing a home tennis match on that Saturday. So, you know, you get to a point where there's just a lot that you got to do, and you really got to learn how to manage your time. If you can't manage your time, you'll never survive in college athletics because of, especially in this field, because of the things you have to do. I mean, you're responsible for everything that goes on at those games, as far as manning the press box, doing the timing schedule, making sure everything gets done, PA, everything that could go in. I mean, and fortunately, we've got a good game day staff. You know, this game day staff was in place before I got to Alabama State. They stayed with us, which has helped because we've been able to ease the transition a little bit. But then when you get into baseball, softball, it's still hands-on. You know, and I use this past year for an example. We had Saturday, we had home softball, we had home basketball, and home baseball, and all of them were at the same exact time. So we split it. I mean, we have 8 people, 9 people that work at the table at a basketball game. I don't even remember who we were playing. That's how bad it was. All Corn State. So we were down to, we had a clock keeper, a PA, a shot clock, me and a spotter. So we were down to 5. And then I had my GA on radio. So that's 6. My assistant was out at softball because of the tournament. I had to teach somebody else how to do baseball last year and then this year. So he was out there by himself. Did fine. But at the end of the day, it just, you know, when you're responsible for all that, you have to have good people with you. You have to have a good staff. You have to have people you can trust, and trust to do their job. And that's a lot of what being a leader is. And, you know, for the longest time, I've been by myself at a lot of places. So the leading thing became, you know, it got put on the back burner. And, you know, to his credit, you know, my direct supervisor, Terrence Jones, sat me down after we had an external meeting and, you know, told me to start pushing away on some things and become a leader again because we had a staff. And, you know, and it just happened to be a week or 2 before that. And so it worked out perfect that it was just perfect timing that, you know, that discussion took place. And, you know, since then it's been a little different. You know, now I actually will do some, okay, I've done 2 media guides, so what I'm about to say is probably not going to sound right. I try to delve out responsibilities as far as getting things done, but that way not everything falls on my plate at the end of the day. But it just, again, you have to have a good staff in order for these crossover seasons to happen, and I wouldn't trade what I have right now for anything.
Gotcha. Tell us about some of the things, since you like to talk about your school more than you talk about yourself. Tell us about some of the things that's going on at Alabama State, and assuming we get back to as close to normal as possible, what do we have to look forward to in the 2021 year?
You know, hopefully a 7th consecutive Commissioner's Cup, which would put us at the top of the all-time record book in the SWAC. You know, it's one of those, it's the award that you get for all sports based on their performance. You know, our kids were just awarded our department was awarded based on our student athletes' performance in the classroom. We had 72% of our student athletes make a 3.0 or better. Again, that's a story that we get to tell. Obviously, you know, everybody knows that we have a new basketball staff in place, and, you know, that's been a nonstop journey. We have interviews about every other day with Coach Williams. You know, we're announcing his signees as they come in, where we're trying to space them out to where we can have them, one every few days, and the signing class will be just keep an eye out on social media and on our website. But moving into the fall, I mean, obviously we're getting ready to return to play. We're getting everything in place for that. I don't want to go too much in detail because that'll be released later, and it's not for public consumption.
So you don't want to break it here on the BCSN?
Well, it'll be something that comes out. I just it'll come out soon, but not by the time that this runs.
I got you.
But just looking forward to good products that get put on the field. Obviously, our football team has made strides in the conference. We finished second the last couple of years, or tied for second the last couple of years in the division, trying to get over the hump. We expanded our Hornet Sports Network onto our YouTube channel for basketball this past spring. We'll go into that fall. We'll have multiple sports on that platform, including football, including volleyball, some of the home matches, if not all the home volleyball matches. Soccer will stay where they're at on their stream network. And then obviously cross country will be everywhere. And then we'll start back with all of our home events with basketball, doing the same thing. Be a little different for basketball. We'll probably have a different voice on for basketball other than myself, just because of the taking care of coaching and his student athletes in their first year at Alabama State. But football, I'll be back on for every game, play-by-play. Baseball, same thing. But we'll have spring sports will be on the same way. It's a wait and see things. We have a lot of plans in the works, but it's just really, a lot of it is out of our hands. We're going to prepare like everything's going to go back. And then if something happens, then we'll just have to rewind everything and go back and go back to the planning stages. But right now, there'll be a lot of things that we do a little different. But at the same time, it's to make sure that our fans and our alumni get a chance to see Alabama State and hear Alabama State more than they have in the past.
All right. We're going to get you out of here on these last couple of questions there, Travis. Question number one. If you were not a SID, what would you be doing?
My college degree says I'm supposed to be a teacher. So for those of you that think that you have to have a specialized degree to get into this field, you don't. Just work hard and do things. I don't know. Right now, I'll be honest with you, over the last 90 plus days, it's being a dad that's being at home and being a present dad, because those of that don't know, we travel a lot. And I've traveled for 17 years in college athletics. My wife married into the business. My daughter was born into the business. So it's all, athletics is really all I've known. I've only stepped away from it one time, and that was to be a high school athletic director. Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, but being a full-time dad right now is kind of takes the cake.
Gotcha. All right, now I'm fixing tax your brain on this one. You've worked at 5 different universities. I'm gonna ask you about some of the individual teams. Of all the 5 different schools that you worked for, which particular year do you think was the best football team that you saw? What school and what year you think?
The best football team that I saw?
Yeah, that you covered.
Well, I can tell you the second best team I saw was the year that we went to the semifinal, the quarterfinals against West Georgia at Tuskegee.
Okay.
The best team I saw is a tie between 2 of the Troy football teams that were in the midst of that five year in a row streak winning the Sun Belt. I mean, we had a year, those 2 years, we had players, Bear Woods, who's playing in the CFL, one of the best players in that league, Jonathan Masqua, Leotis McKelvin, Sherrod Martin, Albert Mack, Steve McClendon, Mario Addison, Cameron Sheffield, Brandon Lang. All those guys were just on defense and all made it to the league. Then you flip it on the other side, you got Levi Brown at quarterback, made the league. Jarrell Jernigan at wide receiver, made the league. DeJuan Harris at running back, played in the league. Then you got a bunch of offensive linemen and a whole host of other receivers. I mean, it's hard to, as much as I would love to be able to pick one team out, I mean, those 2 years at Troy were just unbelievable. And then that 1 year at Tuskegee where, we get to Carrollton and play West Georgia, who's basically a Division I team at the time, and fall in that one. But, you can put them all at the same level. It's just hard to pick one. It really is.
What about basketball? Some of the better basketball teams that you've covered as SID, men's and or women's.
Well, we've struggled a little bit with the last two institutions I've been at as far as basketball. And even on the women's side at Troy, when I was at Troy, we struggled there. North Georgia had a good women's team in 2006 when I was there. AUM had a couple good teams when I was there in 03 and 04. We brought some Division I transfers in, but faltered down the stretch. As far as a team that's gone really deep, I would say the Troy men's team in 10, I think it was, made the championship game of the conference tournament. But again, it's hard to pinpoint. I mean, you had guys on that team like Vernon Taylor, O'Darian Bassett, Tim Owens, God rest his soul, passed away a couple years ago. Bernard Toombs. There's just guys that and I can go back and name the guys from AUM. That tells you what we do on a daily basis. Those guys were Danny Davis, Cliff Lord, Mark Hall, Carlos Welch, Antonio Carlton, Edric Bohan, and Marcus Bullard. All those guys were on the same team. Those were good teams.
Gotcha. What about spring sports? Some of the best spring sports teams that you've happened to cover.
This year's baseball team would have been special. 14-4 to start. Had major wins over some group of 5 schools, swept some series.
Like College Nines, they national champion, if I do remember correctly.
They did. And I would have loved to have seen where they could have gone. AUM had some baseball teams that made the regional championship game. Probably the best game I ever saw was in Albany, Georgia in 2003, I think it was. Albany, Georgia has an old minor league park. They got a scoreboard that's probably 60 feet in the air. You got to hit it over the scoreboard to be a home run. And we were down by 1. We had a runner at second, I think, and one of our guys got up and hit the ball over the scoreboard to win the game. But just Troy's had some really good teams. I just, I didn't cover them. But it just, again, the memories will just start flooding back when you start asking about which teams are the best, because then you just start reeling off names, and it's just unbelievable. The years start mixing together.
Gotcha. All right. If people want to find out about Alabama State sports, what do they log on? Go ahead, give them the website, social media handles, all the promotional stuff.
We'd be here all day if I gave every social media handle. BamaStateSports.com is the official website. That's where you get your official news of Alabama State athletics. Also, Bama State Sports on Instagram, Bama State Sports on Twitter, and then we have multiple accounts for Twitter. We have Bama State FB for football, Bama State VB for volleyball, Bama State TFXC for all 6 for our track and field cross country programs, Bama State WSC for soccer, MBB for men's basketball, WBB for women's basketball, Bama State Bowl for bowling, Bama State tennis, obviously for tennis, Bama State cheer for cheer, Bama State baseball is BB, softball is SB, golf is golf. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but we try to do it where we have all of them. You can follow me on mine is Travis_Jerome. And then, make sure you follow our athletic director, Jennifer Lynn Williams. She's on Twitter. I'd be lying if I could tell you what her Twitter handle was off the top of my head, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for not being able to say it. I want to say it's Bama State AD_JT is the new one, because we changed it, I think, a year or so ago.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to give you the last word. Anything else you want to get out there to the people? Anybody who you want to thank, say hello to? This is your moment right here, Travis.
No, I just appreciate, everybody that has given me an opportunity along the way, that the folks at AUM, the folks at North Georgia, obviously the folks at Troy, Ricky Hazel gave me my first opportunity in Division I, and being young in the game, that was kind of what my goal was at the time. And, as you get older, you realize it's not about what school you're at, what level you're at. It's about what you do on a daily basis. Want to thank the folks at Tuskegee, Curtis Campbell, who was the AD at the time, for giving me a chance. Folks like Dave Lund, Nick Brown, that made Tuskegee fun, and all the coaches. Again, Coach Colvin, God rest his soul. The same thing with Coach Grant, Coach Slater, who's there now as the AD and football coach. It took a while for me to break the shell, but once I broke the shell, it's one of those you can pick up the phone and call. Great person, great man, great leader. And then everybody at Alabama State. I mean, again, if it wasn't for Jennifer Williams and Terrence Jones, I wouldn't even be here anyway. But now it's, I want to thank Dr. Ross for what he does for Alabama State, especially right now during these trying times. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give two people thanks, and that's, Ruben Perez, who we stay in constant contact, and he's one of the main reasons that I'm back here at home. And then Jasher Cox, who I can pick up the phone and call. He took my spot at Tuskegee, and and it's more than professional, it's personal, a relationship there. So we can pick up the phone and vent, talk about what we need to talk about family, talk about, past jobs, have laughs, cry together, laugh together. But at the end of the day, anybody who wants to get in this business, it's a grind. It's not always roses. It's not always fun. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy doing it, you enjoy doing it. And I enjoy doing it. And I can fully say, from the bottom of my heart, I've said it at a couple other institutions. I'm not looking to go anywhere, but my daughter's 11. She's about to go into 6th grade. She's about to be a teenager. God, I can't believe she's about to be a teenager.
By the time you come off the road, then with that one.
Well, and then, so for us, we're home. This is home. We've been in the same house for 7 years now. So, it actually is home. I can always say I'm from Montgomery, but being here is home. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, being able to have the familiar grounds, familiar people. It makes it a whole lot better at the end of the day. And I will say this, something I didn't touch on, Drew, and something a lot of people don't know. Mental health is a big thing that's going around in college athletics, as far as work and everything else. Back when I was 17, 18, I think, I don't even remember. For 2 years, I was, I had anxiety and depression issues because of some medical stuff that was going on. So for people that don't think it's real, it is real, and it can come back and rear its ugly head anytime it wants to. But you got to find that happy place. And for me, it's in my faith and my family and my work. I went in January, and I know I'm getting long-winded. I'm sorry, but this is something I felt like I need to say in January.
Your time.
I was really, really getting stressed out to a point where I just didn't know what was going on. So in January, I committed to going on a walk. It's called a Walk of Emmaus. It strengthens your faith life out. It gets you away from technology for 72 hours. Man, that 72 hours is the best 72 hours I've ever had. And that's not taking anything away from my family. That's not taking anything away from work, people I've worked with. But I came back and I felt rejuvenated. I felt renewed. And since then, it's been stress-free. I've learned how to manage things. And that's why I be at home. If the walls feel like they're closing in, I went 72 hours without any kind of communication except with 50 grown men that some were my age or older and some were younger. But, find that median, find that thing that makes you happy, find your place that you can relax a little bit. Yeah, you're going to have those times still. You're still going to stress. You're still going to freak out about stuff, but just find that place. And, and that goes well beyond athletics. That's for everybody out there, especially now with what's going on with the pandemic and with all the social injustice that's going on in the world. I mean, you got to find a happy place and find that place where you can go and just get away, whether it's read a book, whether it's just go turn the lights off, whether it's get away from your phone for a minute. And just for me, it's prayer and ask a question and listen, and just get uncomfortable for a little while and see. But, at the end of the day, we're all human. It's just for us, and I'm gonna say this, and I hope I say it the right way because I've said it enough. I should be able to say it. For people who are like me, will never understand what Black America goes through on a daily basis. So my suggestion is if you want to know, ask the question. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Ask the question, sit back, listen, and then, stand up beside your brothers and sisters and let them know you're right there with them. And, at the end of the day, it's going to take all of us to make a change, not just a one group. And it's about time that people who are like me stand up and take a stand with Black America and let them know that we're here for them and that we all are supposed to be treated equal, not one over the other.
And with that being said, there's no better way to end this conversation than to say thank you, Mr. Jerome. We appreciate you joining us here on the Black College Sports Network and the SportsWrap Show. And for Travis Jerome, my partner Bryan Fulford, who could not be here for this interview, this is AD Drew, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching. Motivation.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Now, you can't live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
We're back here on the BCSN SportsWrap Show, and we're having another one of our BCSN SportsWrap conversations. Joining us this afternoon is going to be Joshua Jackson. Joshua Jackson is the SID at Edward Waters College. SID, aka Sports Information Director. Before I ask you to tell people who have no clue as to what a Sports Information Director is and what you do, first of all, how are you doing today? How's your family? How's everybody going in this COVID-19 society that we're in?
AD, first of all, great to be on with you, man. Definitely, we have worked together over the past year, and it's been a great working with you guys there at BCSN. Family and everybody here in Jacksonville is doing great. Everything on campus is going well. So everything here in Jacksonville is, considering the situations that we're all in right now, we really can't complain. We're blessed where we're at right now. So everything's going well.
All right. Good. Great. And we're going to talk about some of those things that we got going on campus there in a little bit. First of all, like I say, SID, most people don't even know what those initials mean unless you're in the college athletic world, unless you play college sports or something along those lines. Explain to everybody what an SID or Sports Information Director is, and really how important you are to the face of the university, because a lot of people don't understand how important your job is. Because to me, outside of the athletes and the coaches, you're probably the next most important player in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the athletic department.
Well, sports information director is basically, it's what it is. It's you're promoting the department, you're promoting the student athletes, you're in charge of statistics, making sure the statistics are correct and they're updated. You're in charge of, the parts of marketing that you have to do with sports information, marketing the student athletes, marketing the different programs, marketing the coaches, promoting our information, pushing our information out, letting people know that, EWC athletics does exist and we do things very, very well. So in terms of being able to not only push our information out through our different forms of media, our own more forms of media with social media and things like that, but also, pushing our information out to our local media, having good partnerships with them, good relationships with them. That way we can be able to push our message out, let people know that what we're about. And it can be a very stressful job, but at the end of the day, it definitely is worth it.
Yeah, and you've got large SID departments, you've got small SID departments. But I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell everybody this: you're pretty much a one-man show over there. I know you've got some supports that help, but you're pretty much it. Just kind of tell us about it, on a daily routine. How tough is it being a one-man show?
It's very tough, to be honest with you. It is, because you want to be able to try to satisfy everyone. You've got coaches that are shooting you information and, hey, I've got this going on. Can you push this out there? Can you create this? There's some forms of graphic design that I have to do. Can you design this? Can you push this out there? Can you push that out there? At times, I have to say, it can be stressful, I'm being pulled in 15 different directions with things. But, when you look at our student athletes and you look at what they've been able to do and what they've been able to accomplish, or what our coach has been able to do and accomplish, it's definitely rewarding, when they get the recognition that they deserve, being at a small, historically Black college, and we're not necessarily getting the pub that a Florida State, or even on our level, a Bethune-Cookman or a Florida A&M may get, but still being able to push our product out there. I think now is the time that people want to know what's going on there in Jacksonville, what's going on there at Edward Waters. And, it's a great time for people to know and understand, what we're about. And it's my job to make sure that we're pushing our content out there, pushing what our message is, so that way people can know that what we're about and potentially can be able to, grow and invest in our department.
And you've got some unique opportunities and or challenges with Edward Waters right now. First of all, as of about January this year, you're the only college football team left in the city of Jacksonville, number one. Then, of course, we know what happened to everybody with COVID-19. You've had that challenge. But in addition to that, you also represent a school that is making the transition from NAIA, or exploring making the transition from NAIA to NCAA Division II. Talk about some of those unique challenges that you have in your job just right now.
I think, being in Jacksonville, being a small college here in Jacksonville, in our city, we have two Division I schools in our city. We have the University of North Florida and Jacksonville University. You talked about Edward Waters now being the only college football program in the city. Jacksonville University dropping their program at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So that creates an opportunity for us to be able to push our message forward there. I think with us being able to, with us having a professional football team here in Jacksonville with the Jaguars, with us having, Florida down the street, Florida State 2 hours to our west. I just mentioned FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. There's a huge Georgia presence here, the Georgia Bulldogs. People want to know what's going on with the Dogs. Miami, 6 hours down the road. It's hard. It's difficult. It does create challenges. And also, as you mentioned a few moments ago, we are in the exploratory process of looking at where we are in terms of collegiate, in terms of conference affiliation and overall national affiliation, with us being able to look at where we are in the NAIA and the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, and possibly being able to bring everything under one umbrella, with moving up to NCAA Division II, potentially a move back to the SIAC. So there are some challenges with being able to push our product out. But there are also some responsibilities and things like that I have in terms of making sure that with the products that we have, with the mediums that are at our disposal, what message are we putting out? What message can we put out that we don't necessarily have to rely on someone else to be able to push out for us? What can we pretty much do ourselves? And I think it's incumbent in this day and age, and in this day and age and time, to make sure, now with everyone being at home and everyone's on their computers and things like that, I want to make sure that people see that Edward Waters College Athletics does exist. It's a great program. It's got a rich history. It's been littered with success up and down the department as a whole. I want people to know what we're about. I want people to know that we're here, we exist, and we do things very, very well here. So there are some challenges there, but there are a lot of great opportunities that we have at our disposal.
And you've done a tremendous job since I've known you to be there at Edward Waters. And you've also been recognized by your peers for the outstanding job that you've done. You were recently awarded the SID of the Year for the Gulf South Athletic Conference. Kind of talk about that award, what that award means to you individually, and also what it means to your university to have that type of recognition for your university.
For me personally, it's a blessing. It is. It's a testament to a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I really, really would not. And I've said on a regular that award's not about me. It's really a testament to our student athletes. It's a testament to our staff. It's a testament to our tremendous coaches. It's a testament to the great leadership that we have at EWC, with our president and Dr. A. Zachary Faison, and our new director of intercollegiate athletics, Dr. Paul Bryan, who's come in and really infused a lot of life and a lot of energy to our program. And when you've got people at the highest levels of our institution that believe in you, that believe in the product, that believe in what it is that we're pushing, and want to do everything in our power to make sure that, I have what I need in order to be successful in being able to promote Edward Waters Athletics, it's a blessing. And for my peers in the GCAC to recognize me with the award is great. There's some tremendous SIDs in our conference. There are a lot of one-man shops in our conference. When you talk about guys like Eric Pilcher at Tougaloo, when you talk about Ed Cassier, who's a legend there at Zayden, Damon Walker at Talladega. You talked about Todd Day Jr. at Philander Smith. You talk about a new SID that came in and did a really good job there at Dillard. There are a lot of tremendous SIDs in our conference. And just for me to be recognized with the award this year is nothing short of a blessing. I'm humbled by it, but it definitely makes me want to make sure that I work even harder I don't want to say necessarily to defend my title or whatever, but it makes me work harder to really, push our product, push our message, and push our student athletes to let them know that their voices are being heard, and I want the world to know what they're about.
Yeah, and one thing we talk about the importance of your job. No one knows about these student athletes, these coaches, unless you put out information, and that information leads to them being potentially looked at by scouts. Hopefully, some of them get drafted or get free agent tryouts. Things on that. Kind of talk about that and how important it is and how tough it is sometimes to disseminate all that information to the right people.
It can be very challenging. It can be very challenging to make sure that the information is correct. I have a great statistician that works with us in Meredith McCray, who does Meredith Jesperson, I should say, who's done a great job over her years at Edward Waters. We work great together with making sure that statistics are correct. If there's a change we need to make, we're looking at film. We're making sure that everything is correct, and that way we can be able to tabulate everything submitted to, you know, the National Office for Potential Awards, and, you know, making sure that scouts and you know, from whatever sport there may be, they have accurate information, so they'd be able to have a really vested interest in our guys. And we've been able to have some success with some players in baseball and you know, getting some looks with our football program, with some and in basketball as well, to be able to get some guys that, you know, possibly could be able to get a look at moving to the next level. And when they move up, it's like that old slogan or old saying from Martin: when I blow up, you blow up. You know, it's like when they do well, Edward Waters does well, and it's something we really work hand in hand with to make sure that everything is correct, and that way they get the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah, one thing I could say, being a member of the media, when we have to do research on opposing teams, there's nothing more frustrating than when I go to a school's website and the stats on there, or there's no bio on the coach, or there's no bio on the player, and the team photo is from 2017. It's 2020 now. You know, that's probably one of the most frustrating things for me as a member of the media, trying to get that information. And I've done a little bit of what you've done, not at the level that you've done, but I have done it. So I've got to ask you this question. I've done the NCAA system with Stat Crew. I've done the NAIA system. Those two systems don't talk to each other.
They do not.
and and you right now you're doing both, because football you're using NCAA information. Mm-hmm. All your other sports you're doing using NAIA information, but you do play some NCAA teams, even though you're in NAIA school in other sports, and you guys have to talk back and forth with that. Just for those who do not understand that, like you and I do, just please walk us through that thing.
It is a maddening situation. You know, when, as you mentioned, with us being right now being an NAIA institution, the NAIA uses a DAX, and you know, we're having to use a lot of, you know, XML files and PBX files and things like that. And you know, when I'm playing an NCAA school, more than likely are on the road, you know, I'm having to see if they can convert that information from Stat Crew over to DAX stats. And it's definitely a challenging thing. But you know, I've got some great SIDs that I've worked with that you know, say, hey, no problem, we'll make it work, and we'll make it appear for DAX stats. And but yeah, it is definitely a frustrating situation. But you know, it's just one of those things that kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've had to go back and do the manual entry a few times when that has happened. Let's get into a little bit of personal. Graduate of Florida A&M University, highest of 7 years in Tallahassee, Florida. So we can sit here and talk about FAMU all day, even though we were there doing 2 different times, but we can't talk about it all day. But in addition to graduating from Florida A&M, at one time you were the play-by-play voice for football for Florida A&M. You've been the public address announcer for Jacksonville Sharks, Jacksonville Giants, Jacksonville University. You've done play-by-play in color for multiple high school teams and high school events in the Jacksonville area. You've done radio in color for Edward Waters, and of course you're the play-by-play man currently for Edward Waters basketball, the public address announcer for pretty much everything else that's Edward Waters. How you talk about wearing all those hats, and how you wear all those hats and still do what you do?
My mom asked me that same question about a year or so ago. She was just like, "Baby, you work for all of these teams. How do you not get them confused or things like that?" So,
have you ever done that?
I have not. Knock on wood, I have not. You know, but it can be challenging. It can be, but you know, I love what I do. I love being behind that microphone. There's just something about being behind the microphone. It's addicting. I love doing it. I love being able to describe what I see to our listening audience. I grew up listening to different play-by-play announcers, and I'm like, I want to do that. You know, my dad was a local jazz DJ here in Jacksonville. And when I was a kid, I would go to the studio with him, and I would, watch him do his thing, his dulcet tones and things like that. I was like, hey, I want to do something like that, but I like sports. I want to try to be able to combine the two, and I've loved it ever since. I grew up, listening to Gene Deckerhoff of Florida State. Keith Miles is not only one of my teachers, but one of my idols, former broadcaster, current broadcaster there at FAMU. I grew up listening to the Bob Costases, the Pat Summeralls, and all those guys. And I love those guys, but also recognize that there weren't a lot of guys that look like me doing that role in broadcasting. I was like, I want to try to be able to do my part, to be able to say, hey, people that look like me, we can do that too. We can broadcast as well. We can announce as well, and we can do it at a very, very high level. That's why, I'm so proud of guys like, Jonathan Duran at North Carolina Central. He's the play-by-play voice there, and also sports information director there at NCCU. And I love seeing guys, that have worked hard, that have done it the right way, that are getting the recognition that they deserve. It's just been a blessing. I love that microphone. I'm addicted to it. And I just want to try to be able to do my part.
Yeah. And remind me to never replace you again like I had to do for that football game. I learned. Even though I'm doing play-by-play, they told me I was not Josh. And I will give you this. You have uncanny timing for playing the appropriate song at the appropriate moment while an event is going on in the stadium, and still being able to say foul on number so-and-so or rejection by so-and-so and so-and-so. So I give you that. You are good at what you do. You have uncanny timing, and haven't had the opportunity to do color commentary for you, but I have produced games, which has been doing play-by-play for EWC football. So let's talk about EWC. Let's start off with football. Obviously, today as we record this, no one really knows what's going to happen with the football season. You've already had one game canceled, the Morehouse game, and then you've had one game rescheduled, the Florida Memorial game you guys were able to put at the end of the season. Luckily, both of you guys had an open date right there. Just kind of talk about some of the uncertainty around the football program, what people have to look forward to with the football program, and how tough it is for you as a SID, because you still got to get a media guide out at some point in time this summer.
Yeah, and I'm working on that as we speak. I've been in constant contact with our head coach and Coach Ruffin, making sure that the information that he's giving us is correct, with making sure that our statistics from last year are good, and going over things, looking at records and all those things. So I have to compile all that information together on top of new guys that we have coming into the program, making sure that they've got that information there. So I'm working on media guides, I'm working on quick facts and all those things. In terms of the season, yeah, it's going to be different. It is. I think COVID-19 has definitely taken a toll on a lot of institutions, and Ed Waters is no exception to it. It's taken a toll on a lot of us in terms of athletics, and really in terms of school. What's school going to be like? Are we going to have face-to-face instruction, or are we going to be able to do things online? What our athletic seasons are going to look like, and that sort of thing. So there are some challenges, a lot of questions that we're having to answer, and definitely our COVID-19 task force has done a great job in sending out, what the season and what the year could look like. They've covered just about every base of what we're going to do at EWC. In terms of the program, I don't think that there's been a year that fans could be more excited about than 2020. I really don't. This will be the 70th year that Edward Waters has fielded a varsity football program. This will be the 20th year since the program was rebirthed back in 2001. So we're excited about it. Of course, everyone knows, if you don't know, Edward Waters, for the first time in school history, will be playing their games on campus. We're in the current process of building our $4.4 million Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium, and it's a blessing. It really, really is, man. It's exciting. Being a guy from Jacksonville, my grandmother's house was right around the corner from where Edward Waters is. To know what that area is about and growing up in that area, having that stadium on campus is badly needed for that area. It really, really is. And I think it's going to only, put more of a brighter light on the area. It's going to drum up more business for that area. You're already seeing some development around the stadium and things like that. Not just what's going on with the stadium as well, but you're seeing, the area being beautified. You're seeing some houses being renovated. You're seeing a lot of things around the area which people are getting ready for EWC football and EWC women's soccer, that program getting ready to get started here in the next couple of months. Everything being on campus. It's fun. It's a blessing, man, and I'm excited about it. I really, really am. I think the team is going to be very, very competitive. I think we're going to turn a lot of heads this year. I really, really do. There's a lot of great players that are coming back. We've got a starting quarterback, Rashard Branch, who's coming back. He's going to have a lot of pressure put on him with some guys that we've gone out and recruited, some junior college quarterbacks, some great freshman quarterbacks that'll be coming in. We've got a more excited than anything about what our running back core is going to look like this year. You've got Deshaun Hughley coming back, who rushed for nearly 1,000 yards last year in just his freshman year. He's going to be back, but add to that Corey Hammett, who was our leading rusher from 2018. He missed out last year, but he's back this year. That's going to be a great two-headed monster. That could possibly be one of the best 1-2 punches in the backfield. And you add to that, you've got Malik Stevens, who's going to be coming back this year for his senior year. That running back core is going to be tremendous. You've got 3 starters coming back on the offensive line. You've got some great receivers. You've got a defense that's going to be motivated. I think the secondary was an Achilles heel for EWC last year, but with the changes that are going to be made there with our new defensive scheme and with Coach Joe Carter coming over from Tuskegee, with the system that he has and the success that he's had there at Tuskegee, the guys that we've got coming in the secondary, really watch out for Edward Waters football. I really think we're going to have one of the better seasons in all of HBCU football and really all of NAIA football. I really believe that in my heart.
And I guarantee you, Coach Ruffin has one date circled on his calendar, that being when they play Miles and his cousin Reginald. And Coach Carter has the following weekend circled on his schedule when he goes back and plays Coach Slater in Tuskegee.
Yes.
So we know those 2 dates are circled on the coach's calendar.
The revenge is already ready for us. So so those dates are definitely circled. Absolutely.
The Tiger Revenge Tour 2020.
Absolutely. I like it. T-shirts get made right now.
There you go. You mentioned a new program coming on, women's soccer.
Yes.
Talk about that, and I know it's been a little tougher starting up a new program with all the COVID stuff going on, but just kind of tell us about the women's soccer program. A lot of people don't know what time of the year it's played, who you guys have coaching it. Get into the women's soccer.
Head coach Kevin Mullen coming in, who's been a great coach at a lot of different levels of soccer, who's been able to come in and really infuse a lot of energy into our department. He's gone out and he's recruited nearly 20 young ladies will be coming in. They'll be playing in the purple and orange this year for our women's soccer program. It's played in the fall. First game is tentatively scheduled right now for mid to late August. Of course, they're having to move some things around as a result of COVID, but he's really come in and has really, as I said, infused a lot of excitement around the program. Our emails are definitely keep blowing up about, how can I be a part of the program? Knowing that soccer is the most popular sport in the world, to be able to bring that to our campus, it's only another feather in our cap to us here at EWC. We're excited to bring it along. And we know Coach Mullen's going to do a great job. We've got indoor track and field that's going to be coming in this year as well. Another program that we have at EWC. We had our lunch and learn at the end of last week with Dr. Bryan talking about some potential programs that could be coming down the pike. Golf could be coming back to EWC. Tennis could be coming down the road. lacrosse could be coming to EWC. So there are a lot of different avenues that really the sky is the limit for EWC athletics. So we're excited about the new programs that are coming in, and we expect for them to be incredibly competitive and really expect for them to compete for championships.
All right, you're scheduled to host the 2021 GCAC basketball tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about men's and women's basketball team that will be hopefully playing on their home court in March.
Yeah, head coach Charmaine Wilson, going into her 10th season of the women's basketball program, has really come in, and she is a fantastic coach. She has plays a pressing style, an up-tempo style offensively, pressing style defensively. She's gone on and she's had to recruit some because there's a lot of points that are graduated last year. Mia Late, unfortunately, well, I won't say unfortunately, she got her degree and has moved on, but unfortunately she used her eligibility. But there's a lot of points that are leaving that floor. But I think she's gone out. She's done a great job in recruiting, going out and getting bigger in that backcourt and in the front courts, and being able to get more competitive there at that forward and center position. What she's got coming back as well. I expect for them to be near the top of the GCAC again this year. Hopefully being able to break that glass ceiling and bring that championship home to Jacksonville. Head coach Fred Summers is getting ready to go into his third season at the helm of our men's basketball team. I really expect for them to be again in the championship game and be able to possibly compete for another championship. I think the guys that he's being able to bring in and be able to be successful there in recruiting and get them excited about the things that we have at EWC. And he's also started a JV program this year. So junior varsity basketball on the men's side will be started this year. So he has a developmental program as well. So the sky's the limit there for our basketball teams. We've renovated our basketball arena at the Adams-Jenkins Complex. So another feather in our cap for EWC basketball. And again, the expectations for our programs are very, very high in basketball. And being able to host the GCAC tournament again this year, it's another carrot out there for us to be able to go chase that championship again and be able to win it and go crazy on our own home floor.
Yeah, and I totally skipped over one of the fall sports. We talked about the women's soccer coming in, but I forgot you guys have women's volleyball also in the fall.
Yep, we got women's volleyball. Yeah. Coach Shaquana Miller is coming in her first season at the helm of the volleyball program, and her recruiting has done well. The cupboard's not bare for her at all, and bringing back a squad that finished in the top 4 of the conference last year. Expectations are high for her program as well. Can you compete and knock down that beast, that Xavier in the conference there when it comes to volleyball? So she's been able to go out and recruit and bring in some great young ladies, and they'll begin their season in August. And we're excited. We're excited about that program. And again, that expectation is there to go out and compete and bring home a championship.
All right, and spring sports. Talk about your spring sports expectations for 2021 in the spring sports.
Baseball head coach Reggie Johnson will begin his 11th season at the helm of the baseball program. They compete in the Association of Independent Institutions there in the NAIA, and he's a guy that is just a phenomenal baseball coach. His recruiting, when you look at our Twitter page and you see guys say, "Hey, I'm committed to Edward Waters. I'm 110% committed to Edward Waters. I'm coming to Edward Waters." And these are some great baseball players that are coming to EWC. We've come close to being able to get that bid to the Nationals. Hadn't been able to break that glass ceiling as of yet, but I really firmly believe that coming up in 2021, we're going to get that bid to Nationals this year and begin to make a serious run for a national championship. Women's softball program head coach Manny Perez will begin his third season coming up in 2021. Last year, his team for the third year in program history got a chance to compete for and participate actually in the NAIA regional tournament. So they were able to compete for a chance at a national championship. So expectation again is to go out and get to a regional again, make some noise, and get to that NAIA Women's College World Series this year. You look at track and field, the track and field programs, head coach Letitia Parsons, who's done a phenomenal job. She'll be going into her second season. The men's team this past year, unfortunately, before COVID hit, they were getting ready to compete for what would have been an unprecedented 6th consecutive GCAC track and field championship. So we'll be hosting the GCAC track and field championships in Jacksonville as well this year in 2021. So the men's team will be competitive as well. The women's team, they've been runners-up over the past couple of years in the conference. Want to try to see if they can break that glass ceiling again this year when it comes to that. So, we're excited about all of our sports. We are just roaring to go. And really can't wait to really get the season going, and hopefully we'll be able to bring some hardware and to have some more rings on our fingers this year.
And see, this is why SIDs are important, because I know I would have gotten lost and would have left somebody out during this last 10 minutes of conversation as we went through about 8 different teams that you guys be in varsity sports in there, in addition to remembering that we're talking about adding some other sports at Edward Waters College. That's why you're good at what you do.
I appreciate it.
But also, in addition to knowing the current situation, current change, you're also a historian for the school. You document history from an athletic point of view. Kind of talk about how important that is to make sure that you got that right and to document this stuff, because as an alumni, they want to contact you. Hey, do you have information from when I played in 20 so and so and so and so, and they expect you to be able to go and pull it and find it and all the good stuff with it. Just kind of talk about that.
Well, the one person I lean on more than anything when it comes to histories and things like that is definitely our assistant AD, as well as our former SID and Henry Smith. He's a guy that's been at EWC for over 20 years. He knows the ins and outs of Edward Waters athletics. And yeah, it's important. We want to make sure that if we're saying that a record has been broken, we want to make sure that it's correct. The one thing I don't want to hear is, oh, well, I did this back in 19, whatever. And I'm looking at it, I'm just like, dang, you're right. And I don't want to make that mistake. And, we want to make sure that our information is correct, because, the people that wore the purple and orange prior to our student athletes of today, they deserve to be recognized. They deserve to be recognized for what it is they did on the respective playing surfaces. I want to make sure that information is correct. So, yeah, it's important to make sure that our history is accurate and to make sure that it's correct, because, there's a storied history at Edward Waters College. There's a storied history at EWC athletics. We've had guys that have gone on to do great things, and we want to make sure that the work that they did at Edward Waters is memorialized and recognized and respected, because, when you look back and see what they were able to do, I'm hoping that my student athletes that go back and look and see what someone has done in the past, it motivates them to be able to carry on that tradition forward.
Definitely. We're going to get you out of here on these last couple of questions. Number one, we know what's been going on in the world for about the last 30 days with the George Floyds and Breonna Taylors and everything else going on. You got the floor to express your feelings, your opinions, whatever you want to say about that situation. I'm gonna give you the floor.
First of all, it's definitely unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation, and it's something that has happened far too much, and I think that a certain segment of people have gotten too comfortable with it, and I think it's a situation now where we have to begin to make people uncomfortable about being comfortable with wrong. I think that peacefully protesting is not only a right, it's a responsibility, and I think that people have to do more listening to understand. You want to know where someone is gone, walk a mile in their shoes. Well, here's an opportunity for you to walk in their shoes, for you to understand where they're coming from, for you to understand the centuries of hurt and pain and frustration that have come since African Americans have been here in this country. I think that we have an opportunity here to really push our message and really begin to change things. I have a 10-year-old niece, and she's been asking me a lot, Uncle Josh, what's going on? Why are all these people, yelling and screaming and doing all of these things? And why is that man's knee on his neck and things like that? And it is, I don't have any kids personally, but like I said, my niece is my closest one that I have to a child. And it is the most terrifying thing to have to explain to a 10-year-old that not everybody's nice. But it's also, something that, we just have to be responsible about. I think, like I said, being able to go out and protest, it's a right and it's a responsibility. And I really hope that people are looking to do their part to make sure that we're affecting and inspiring change in a positive way. It's sad to see some of the responses that some people may have negatively toward people exercising their First Amendment rights. But I just really hope that people begin to look at themselves and really understand, the hurt and the frustration from others. And like I said before, really just do their part to inspire positive change.
And I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in on it. Everything you said, I agree with. But all the protesters don't mean crap unless you register to vote. Absolutely. And you actually go out and exercise that right to vote. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I tell people all the time, our ancestors fought and died. They had dogs sicked on them. They had, water cannons. I've heard stories about the Bull Connors and things like that. Just for people, just because they wanted, that African Americans wanted the right to vote, it would be a slap in their face. And I mean this with every level of sincerity. It would be an absolute slap in their face. And it would really, disrespect everything they did if you did not act on the right that they fought and died for you not to go out and exercise your right to vote. It is your right. It is your responsibility to go out and honor them and honor their memory. Go out, make your voice heard, exercise your right to vote. It's important now. It's not a game anymore. You've got to be able to go out and exercise your right to vote.
Yeah, yes, I totally agree with you. All right, now we've taken care of the serious. Now we're gonna get on something a little bit lighter.
All right.
All right, Josh. If you were not at SID, either at Edward Waters or another university or college, what would you be doing?
Wow. Probably broadcasting professionally, going around and doing the circuit. I have my degree in communications and broadcast journalism. I would probably be doing something along those lines. My hope is in the future, I can be able to do but I think, probably doing something along those lines when it comes to, being able to broadcast, for a living professionally. That probably what I would probably be doing.
All right. Now, you spend a lot of time on the road traveling as a SID. All right. Where would you, like, if you had your choice of places that you wanted to travel to, where would you go?
Wow.
Something not athletic related,
Not
it could be, but just something not to do with the job, though. I want to see, where do you want to go?
Place that I would want to travel that didn't have. Because I kind of, if I had my choice to do it all over again, and it wasn't athletics related, I would probably go back to Toronto. I went to Toronto last year for spring break, and I would want to make sure I go back when it's warmer.
You got to go to Carolina, man.
Man, when I went to Toronto last year, it was in March or April. Yeah, March or April, and I'm thinking, hey, it's warm down here a bit. No, it was freezing up there, but. I had a blast, man. I probably
Florida blood in you, Josh.
I know. I tell people all it's the Florida blood. I'm born and raised in Jacksonville, and I was born in the dead of summer. I'm a summer baby. I was born in August, so So if I had the chance to probably do it all over again, when it's a bit warmer, probably go back to Toronto. But if it's job related, I thoroughly enjoy each and every opportunity I get. That when our teams we go to the Carolinas. There's something about that area, man. Like, I love Charlotte. I love Raleigh-Durham. I love Columbia. I just love the Carolinas, man. I've always said I would love for my career to ultimately one day take me to the Carolinas and possibly be able to retire there. If it's career related, definitely take me back to the Carolinas, man. I love it.
All right. Two more. GCAC conference. What's your favorite campus outside of your campus? What's your favorite other campus to visit? GCAC.
Wow, favorite other campus that. I would probably say favorite other campus other than my own. I would probably go with Xavier. I probably would go with Xavier. It's what they've been able to do there is beautiful, man. It is, and I just got to call a spade a spade. It's what they've been able to do. They've got a beautiful building, a beautiful campus there in New Orleans, and no offense to anyone else, man, but it's other than my own, man. I enjoy every time I go to Xavier, man. It's a lot of fun.
You've almost done your one around in SIAC. Favorite SIAC campus that you could think of that you've been to?
Favorite SIAC campus? I would probably go with. I'm actually looking forward to going back there again this year. Tuskegee. Honestly, the shed. The shed is crazy, man. The shed is crazy, and when I'm hearing that,
you
song,
don't have to tell me about it.
I know. Being a Tuskegee alum, man. I'm hearing that song, ball and parlay and things like that. And then just seeing that crowd, and they are just phenomenal fans, man, and they get behind those Golden Tigers. They really, really do. So if I had to have my choice of a favorite campus, I gotta go with Tuskegee, man. I'm looking forward to going back.
Yeah, I haven't worked there. I just don't like the August and September games. 1 o'clock kickoff in August and September in Tuskegee is not fun when you have to be on the sideline.
You're not telling me anything, man. 1 o'clock here in Florida is in August and September is and I've got to wear dress clothes too, and I'm already a heavier guy, so things begin to sweat. Yeah, it can be a little rough.
Yes, definitely. All right, now we're gonna let you take care of the business end of everything. Tell everybody about where they can reach out and find Edward Waters on the internet, social media, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get Edward Waters plugged.
Well, to get into my broadcaster voice for all the latest news, scores, and inside information on Edward Waters Athletics, you can find us on our website at ewctigerpride.com. We make sure that the site is updated frequently with a lot of great information and tidbits to get you ready for EWC Athletics. You can also follow us on our all of our forms of social media. On Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Just follow us at EWC Athletics. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/EWC Athletics. Twitter, Instagram, it's at EWC Athletics. You can also see some shows on our YouTube channel at Edward Waters College Athletics. We've got a lot of great video content on there as well. So there's a lot of information out there. If you want to know anything about that, just follow all those sites, man. And definitely, man, we look forward to the partnership again with BCSN, man.
Yes, and if you want to catch any of the home football games or basketball games over the last 2 years, you can always reach out to us by bcsn.net. And also, I don't know if you downloaded it, Josh, but I need you to go and download our new app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store at myjbn/mybcsn, where you can find all of our V108 The Vibe, our gospel station, urban station, and talk station. We've got EWC Athletics on there. Our show SportsWrap, which you'll be on an upcoming episode of that. So anything you need in urban media, join us at BCSN, and also you can link to some of the Edward Waters content.
Absolutely. I look forward to downloading that right now, man.
All right, and so I'm gonna give you the final word as we get out of here. The floor is yours, Josh.
Well, just thank you, AD, for having me on, man. You and Roy and Bryan, you guys are brothers, man. And I appreciate everything that you guys do, not only for EWC Athletics, but for HBCU Athletics as a whole. Especially around, with this time that we're in right now. it is so important. Our HBCUs are so important. Being an employee at an HBCU and a product of another one, they're just incredibly important right now, man. So the work that you guys are doing to spotlight HBCU athletics, man, it can't go unnoticed, man. And just from the bottom of my heart, man, I appreciate everything that you guys do. I love all your shows. I'm a fan of the SportsWrap. Shout out to Bryan Simpkins. He had a great article a few weeks ago, man. And what you guys have been able to do, man, it's just been phenomenal. So I appreciate what all you guys are doing, man, and all of the HBCU athletics networks, man. HBCU Game Day, all you guys, man. You guys are so important to what we do in EWC athletics and HBCU athletics as a whole, man. So just from us to you guys, man, just thank you. We really appreciate it.
And I'm gonna give you one more. Don't forget about Black College Nines with one of your EWC alumni, Mike Coker over there at Black College Nines, EWC alum. I thought I'd just throw that in.
Hey, man. I get an email from him often, man. We want to make sure that our stuff is out there as well, man. But he does a really, really good job with Black College Nines, man. So absolutely, hats off to him.
Oh, if I got a baseball question, that's the first person I'm calling.
Absolutely.
So, in all seriousness, Josh, I thank you for your time. Really appreciate this. Obviously, you know how to reach us if you need to disseminate any information here through the Black College Sports Network. So, for my producer Roy Evans, for my partner Bryan Fulford, our special guest Joshua Jackson, this is another edition of BCSN SportsWrap's Conversation, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan Fulford and AD Drew here. I want to remind you to log in, or find us on Facebook and on YouTube. On YouTube, you're at MyJBN Online. Make sure to like, subscribe. And on Facebook, of course, the Black College Sports Network and the BCSN Sports Wrap. Both shows have Facebook pages. And, of course, on Twitter and Instagram, Periscope, at MyBCSN1. Very appreciative to Travis and Joshua for their time. AD, give you a final thought to sort of wrap up the conversation, some great conversations that you had with those two gentlemen.
Bryan, I hope we learn how hard the job of an SID is and what all goes into it. You and I, we've talked about this behind the scenes. How tough is it for us when we have to do our research on a broadcast that we're getting ready to do or a show topic that we want to discuss and not be able to go onto that school's website and find the information on a particular player, coach, or thing like that? It's 2020, and we've been there where we've seen teams that have not updated their website since 2017. So, outside of the head coach and the athlete, the SID probably has the most important job at the university, because athletics are the front door of any major university. Would you not agree?
Yeah, definitely would agree with you.
Yeah, so just want to thank those two for giving us a moment. And at this time, when we're searching for content, they are the people who help us create the content that we create for our shows. And then you take what's happened at Alabama State with the Mo Williams hiring, what's happened at Florida A&M, what's happened at Bethune-Cookman, what's happened with Edward Waters with their renovations, and so many other schools. What's been happening over the summer? They're probably the most important link to keeping up to what's going on with athletics.
Yeah, my final thought will be sort of a plug, and I will plug and encourage any student, or if you're a parent that has a student that's interested in sports, I would encourage you to have your student, or if you're a student, go to the athletic department at your university and find out if there's opportunities for you to volunteer to work with the athletic department, work with the sports information director. It's a great, you may not get paid, but you'll get some good background and good information and some skills that, if you're interested in a career in sports, will carry you on. And if you're a writer, photographer, graphic designer,
mass communications.
yeah, those are great opportunities that the athletic departments can always utilize students who are interested in growing their skills. I mean, of course, be serious about going in there because they have real work to do, but it's right there in your backyard. So I know when I was an undergrad, I remember going and volunteering to work with Dexter Martin, who at the time was the marketing director at Florida A&M. Alvin Hollins was the sports information director at Florida A&M. And so that's sort of how I got to learn a little bit from those two gentlemen at the time. And, of course, Alvin is like the GOAT. He's a Hall of Famer in the Media Eastern Athletic Conference. So, I mean, just valuable resources are at your disposal. So that's my plug, my final thought. There's great SIDs all across the landscape of HBCUs and even other schools. But if you're a student and you have a desire to possibly write, produce, do graphic design work, be involved in sports, even on an administrative level, go see your SIDs and find out how you can volunteer to work with them. There's some great avenues there for you and opportunities. So
can I throw one more in there?
One more final thought, AD. You were supposed to get your final thoughts in and your final thought.
But you made me
Go
think
ahead,
about something when you start naming those things. Statisticians. If you're good with numbers, economics majors, things like that, because I originally got involved working with SID department at Tuskegee to think A, as a photographer, but B, also as a statistician. When I was not coaching at Tuskegee University, because I was able to do the stats for various sports events. So those are also other people that are needed, scorekeepers for sports, football, basketball, baseball. If you know how to keep the book, there's an opportunity for you. And as you get out into the world, there are companies that pay people. These SID departments have outsourced some of these things. There are companies that will pay you as a contract employee to go do a game at so-and-so university. Hey, we need you to stat this game. We need you to spot this game. We need you to. Those are extra opportunities for a quote-unquote side hustle if you love sports and you understand sports. You know what assist is, you know what a rebound is, you know what a rush is, and you know how to chart it and input it into a computer. You can pick up a couple of extra dollars doing those things in the sports information department, either directly or through contract work with various sports information departments, because a table or a crew for any individual sport, having done that, is a tough thing to get together and a tough thing to train. But once you get that skill, you can go out and make money anywhere at anybody's university doing those things. And my final thought, my ultimate final thought.
Final thought, PPS, or what is it, PSSS or something like that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you remember back in, I think it was March or April, when we had the conversation with Dr. McClellan with the SWAC before all this stuff started going down. And he mentioned, if you want to see football in the fall, you got to stay at home. You got to wear your mask. You remember that conversation that we had?
Very vividly. I made a promo for it on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, he has that doctor in front of his name for a reason. AKA, see what has happened at Morehouse. He knows these things. He does the research. He has the team to put these things together.
Yeah,
we opened up too soon in a lot of states. We started getting cabin fever, so we had to get out. The George Floyd situation did not help us out, because that was something that as a society we needed to stand up for. But a lot of people did not make the best decisions in their haste to get out and protest by protecting themselves. And we've got this 4th of July weekend coming up as we record this show. I'm afraid this 4th of July weekend may be the death of fall sports.
I'm cutting your mic before you drop any more bad news or have any more final thoughts.
I was right about the SWAC, so I hope I'm not right about this one.
I'm putting you on mute, AD. That's AD Drew right there, ladies and gentlemen. Find him on Twitter at BCSN Drew. His thoughts do not always reflect those post or the show in its entirety. My name is Bryan Fulford at DRB365 is where you can find me. Of course, the Black College Sports Network. You can find us at MyBCSN1, Twitter, Instagram, as well as on Facebook and on YouTube. Just search MyJBN Online. Want to remind you, check out Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Tuesday evenings. You can find that Tuesday evening show on Facebook. Just search for Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, or it will be streaming on Twitter at MyBCSN1. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central is when that show airs. And so that show, always a good show with Doc, Mike, and Charles. And those guys do a great job. We're glad that they are part of the Black College Sports Network. All right, if you're celebrating this upcoming week, the 4th of July, be safe, be smart, and just watch out. Yeah, mask up, mask on, think of your fellow citizens, and hopefully we'll start to see some declining numbers in the days and weeks ahead. As we learn more news in HBCU sports, we'll make sure to broadcast it out. Make sure to follow us so that you can stay informed. For AD Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thanks for watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Again, thanks to Travis Jerome and Joshua Jackson in this episode, and we are out.
Holla.
But yo, my beat stay up.